let's get started. So this is a webinar, v19 R3 webinar, where we're going to be highlighting many of the new features of 40v19 R3 that was released earlier this month. So this is a nice time to review all the major features of the feature release. And in it, we talk about the development features, features that can help your end users, new deployment features, 40 for mobile enhancements, and the major improvements that are happening in 40 Write Pro. So my name is William Taylor. I'm the technical account manager at 40 US, and with me I have Komoncharoensiri, who is the director of technical services. And we'd like to both warmly welcome you and wish you all a happy new year and a happy 2022 and all the best. But and I think we're getting started with the best. So with 40v19 R3. So without further ado, let's start talking about the developer features. And these are features that we feel have the most impact for you, the developer. Quick first one is, and requested by many of you for the past 3 years with Orda, and starting v19 R3, blobs are now fully supported in Orda, like any other type, allowing Orda developers to use the blob attributes. Now, if this announcement doesn't excite you, you haven't really dealt with Orda yet. That's right, I'm gatekeeping right now. So, some blob supporting Orda 19 R3. And already since v19, 40v19, you can create applications under macOS that support dark mode. And personally, I like dark mode for some applications. In other applications, I like light mode. Now, 40v19 R3 gives you the choice on how you develop your application. And you can choose either light mode, dark mode, or your generic or your standard system setting. So very cool for if you have a new developer that wants the dark mode, 19R3, they've got it. So very cool. And you also have more simplified navigation between your code, documentation, and the Explorer. So for those developers that document their code, 40v19 R3 provides you with a new mechanism to access your documentation easily for your project methods, classes, forms, all your 40 work. A new pop-up menu item has been added to the method editor that you can see in this quick demo. And now you really have no reason not to document your code. And scalable web sessions were a major improvement in 40v18 R6. It allowed using 40 tags, 40 actions, and REST API in preemptive mode on a 40 server. And starting with v19 R3, we have simplified this process for debugging on the server side. Now, let me clarify, this is a 40 server feature. So just activate your debugger on the server or remotely with the attached debugger or the attached debugger as startup menu items. And note, when you attach the debugger, you're running your application in cooperative mode. And if you detach the debugger, the scalable web sessions become preemptive again. Okay, that's just a note, a word of the wise. And with 40v19 R3, the zip create archive command supports the compression algorithm LZMA, which creates smaller archives than the standard zip compression algorithm. Now you can pass a zip archive object to the zip create archive command to customize your zip archive. This allows you to set the compression algorithm, set the encryption algorithm, and a few other options like the level at which you'd like the compression to be set at. And smarter method parameter passing. So 40v19 R3 provides the ability to access all method parameters without error, even if some parameters were not passed by the caller. In this way, the code becomes clearer and more readable without many if statements at the beginning checking the parameters. So note, to benefit from this simplification, the method called and the calling method must be recompiled. So if you're in the case that the method is shared between a host database and a component database, both projects need to be recompiled. And in general, I say this because it won't work otherwise, but in general, if you create a new version of your application with a new version of 4D, you should always recompile both host and component together. Very cool. And next, I'd like to talk about a major feature in 4D v19 R3, and that's calculated attributes. So say you have an incredibly small database application that has one table with two fields in it, a primary ID and a primary key and an image, let's say, and you wanted to fill the columns of a list box as such. Each list box would be an entity. Each row of the list box is an entity, and each column of the list box would have some attribute of that entity. Now, you could do this. You could do this in a variety of ways. You could have methods to be called, and you could call those methods whenever the list box was displayed. You could store this information in the photo, with more fields in the photo. You could do a bunch of different things. But now in 4D v19 R3, we have a very slick, elegant way to do this, and that's using calculated attributes. So what you could do using calculated attributes is you could create a class photo entity that extends a type entity, entity, and you could define, for example, a few different functions within that class. Get width, that would return the integer, the number of the width. Height, get size, get name, get format, each returning their appropriate return type. And again, this is just a very basic example to illustrate what I'm talking about, but I think we can all imagine what I'm doing here. And then in your list box, you can associate those calculated attributes to columns of your list box. So for each entity, you would call this dot get name to get the name, this dot get width to get the width, etc. And there you have a very clear use of how you can use calculated attributes and how easily you can do it by extending your photo and data class. So, and if you'd like to learn more about calculated attributes, there are two brand new tech notes available on kb.40.com. And these are for partners only. So if you're a partner and you want to get going on the time saving, and if you want to get on this time saving and error reducing paradigm, I'd recommend you have a look at the computed attributes in 4D, TechNote, and also the 4D for Android computed attributes and more. And if you're not a partner, it's never too late to join. Contact your sales representative or send us a note to call you after this webinar. So now let's move on to the next category, features that are directly visible for your users, or things that have been implemented, for your users, things that the end users of the application. So a few years ago, when we could all meet together, we presented you in a world tour with the way to integrate your webcam into your 4D application. Now, this was super cool, but the setup was a little complicated. It was using Node and this and that. And but now we have simplified this thanks to the embedded 4D web engine. Now you can, out of the box, have webcam support in your 4D application. Super cool. This may interest you if you like to record your application, do meetings, or anything with the video. And as a developer, I bet you always wanted to see the smiles on your end user's face while they're using your 40 application. Well, now you can. Here's a quick demo of me at jury duty doing the quick demo. So can't see my smile, but it's underneath that mask. So following the introduction of OAuth 2.0 authentication for accessing email via IMAP, SMTP, POP3 transporters, 40v19r3 also implements the OAuth 2.0 protocol for Microsoft 365. And this was a feature that was highly demanded of our developers last year. So this provides the ability to easily access your Microsoft 365 account by programming a token from the Microsoft Identity Platform. And there was a great how do I on the blog for this on how to do exactly this. And I invite you to review it. And this how do I uses the 4D Netkit component, which is also available on our Git repository. So if your end user is asking about connection to Microsoft services with OAuth, I invite you to have a look. And if you need more help, we're here at the PS team are always ready to help you with new integrations with various systems. And there are already some discussions about this on discuss.40.com of people connecting to other services like Google's G Suite, for example. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the community as well. So next on to the deployment features, and these are functions that revolve around the delivery or operation of your 4D solution. So 4D developers who develop for both Mac and Windows or cross-platform know how complicated it was in the past to compile Windows on Windows for Silicon Macs. Now, it's still not directly possible, but with 40 v19r3, we've made this much easier. So in essence, you are able to, from your Silicon Mac, create a small folder for the compiled database. And you can simply copy this folder to your Windows machine. And with this small folder, you're able to build your application with it. Now, if you prefer, you can do this whole process with the build application command if you're the automation type. So and as a part of our log improvement project, which started with v19, 40 v19r3 adds two new major features. The first is the ability to pause logging and to restart it. So you can pause your logging immediately from within the server administration window, or programmatically, of course. Also, in order to facilitate the gathering of the correct logs from your end user, there is a slick new way of defining which logs you want, and that's using configuration files. So you, the developer, are able to provide your end user a configuration file wherever they may be, and they load it up and they give you the correct logs that you're after. Now, this will both benefit you, the developer, and our technical support teams, and remove the guesswork from log generation and remove, let's say, end user error. So, and if you're interested in this, I invite you to have a look at the feature on developer.40.com. Where all of the types of logs and what they are and how to get them and what they do is explained. The next topic I'd like to talk about is 40 for mobile, which is our flagship low to no code mobile development platform. And that's for both 40 for iOS and 40 for Android. So now in 40v19r3, we have new ways to interact with native Apple apps. Now you can access phone numbers or email addresses in your Apple Contacts app, for example, as you see here. So you don't have to retype. You can just open up from your 40 for iOS application. You can open up your contacts and grab the appropriate contact name or number. Or you can also use the current location to populate an email address. So super cool ways to streamline data entry or application connection into your 40 for iOS application. So, and then 40 for iOS also adds some sort criteria enhancements. So the definitions of sort criteria have been improved to work faster and more efficiently. For the sort action, you can now change the sort criteria of the action via a simple drop box, allowing you to select a different field from the available fields. And there have also been some actions enhancements. So for the add and edit presets actions, a message at the bottom of the action parameter panel indicates the parameter that is associated with an existing field. Now, why is it a good thing to be able to associate a parameter with an existing field? Well, linking parameters to actions automatically can drastically reduce the amount of code needed in your on-mobile app action database application method. Super cool. So what was already a low code environment is now a lower code environment, possibly. And 40v19r3 provides the ability to debug your mobile application directly on your Android device. So this process requires super simple to set up and requires only 2 steps to get your application running on your device. First, you have to enable the debugging in the developer option settings on your device itself. And once your smartphone is connected to your computer, you select your physical device from the list and click Build and Run. It's just that easy. And next, I'd like to talk about all the new enhancements in 40Write Pro. So as we all know, 40Write Pro is a state-of-the-art text editing embedded text editor in your 40 application. And it just got that much better in 19R3. So one way is that 40Write Pro and v19r3 now offers a new dialog for image settings. And with it, you can easily set the size of the image, set the display format, add margins and padding, and even set the position on the page for an anchored image. Now, this dialog can be called via either the context menu or an event, like say on double click on the form. So new also is the possibility to add an image from a URL with the toolbar widget. And now a major new feature in 40Write Pro is the continuous section breaks. Now this sounds really complicated, and maybe some of you have noticed that there was some discussions in the forum about the naming of this functionality. And here's a quick explanation. So a continuous section break creates an independent section without causing a page break. Among other things, this allows you or your end user to have a different number of columns on the same page. And inserting a continuous page break is possible, either programmatically or via the standard widgets in the toolbar, like what you see in the demo that I did right there. So the choice is up to you, the developer, on how to expose this functionality to your end user. And so, and for those of you that use 4D Write Pro in your application, I expect that you're using formulas in your documents. That's the main killer feature of an embedded text editor in your database application, these formulas. And now, but sometimes people don't know exactly what came from a formula or what is just text, right? Hard-coded text in your application. And this caused some confusion, especially for end users. So now in 4019 R3, we've introduced a new feature that is directly related to this. And it provides better visibility of formulas and their values in a 4D Write Pro document. Here is a small example. You can see the feature in action and how it can benefit your end users, where we're going to highlight and kind of show different ways to look at the 4D Write Pro document. So on the left is the 4D Write Pro document, and on the right are the various parameters that you can use and highlight. Highlight references, display the values, highlight the values. So you see, you can highlight a lot of things. And you have a lot of control over the way that you can highlight and show these in your 4D Write Pro document. Cool. Very helpful, and it can be very helpful and very handy, especially in complicated, larger 4D Write Pro documents. Now, 4D Write Pro documents could already be exported in various formats. We're talking PDF, plain Word, Microsoft Word, HTML, but now you can even export these in SVG. And this allows you to create, for example, a thumbnail image of the first page that you'd want to show maybe on your website. And the same image could then be shown on your website, on your 4D for iOS application, or even embedded or even opened up in another application. So here's a quick demo on how that could look. So just export this text to SVG, and from the widget, we click export to all of those types. Oh, but we're going to pick SVG. You have a bunch of things to export. And save it. I already had one. Yeah, and you can just show how it kind of. So yeah, kind of a roundabout way, but you see, I have the information. I have my text in Chrome from export. It's super cool. From an export of our 4D Write Pro document. I want to just kind of give a plug right now for the blog. I use the blog every single time there's a new release. That's how I get introduced mainly to all of the new features in 4D, and I get to become, and that's how I learn about them. And every time there's a new release on 4D, right now, v19 R3 has been officially released, and that means that v19 R4 is now in beta. So if you're interested in learning what's going to be coming forward in the next 3 months from now in your feature release, I invite you to look at the blog and start to have a play. It's very cool. It's very well written. The team puts a lot of work into it, and the how-do-whys and explanations are great. And if you do have any questions, feel free to discuss with us and discuss.4d.com. The product owners, the people that own these specific products in 4D, love to get your feedback, and negative, positive, neutral, it doesn't matter. All feedback is great for us. So I invite you to visit the blog. And if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, reach out to me, at anybody. about their questions. The discuss.40.com is a great place for any new features questions, any just general discussion about these new features. We'd love to have them with you guys. And I'd like to thank you again for joining, for participating, and for staying up to date on the latest of 4D. The team works really hard, and we love giving these presentations to y'all. So yeah, thank you very much. And I wish you all a very happy, successful 2022. And we hope to meet soon. So thank you.